Okay, welcome everybody to our second to the last webinar. And we have unfortunately, a small but esteemed turnout today of Emerson, Olavo, and William, who seem to be our regulars. Thank you guys for being consistent and showing up. And everyone else hopefully will listen to this or view this. And I guess I just want to start out by saying we are within striking distance of the end of the course. We have, as I said, I believe one more regular webinar, or is it two, Hugh? How many more? Two more. Okay. So next, we'll have webinar next week, which will be July the 9th, and then one more on the 16th. And then we'll give you a couple weeks to get everything finished up, and then we'll have our virtual graduation on, I think we're going to actually do that on August the 2nd. So for Emerson and Olavo and William, you're probably keeping ahead with the work. But this would be the time the next couple of weeks to let us know if there's anything you need help on. Everybody's a little behind. Some people are way behind. So it's definitely time to catch up. And we want you to get the most out of the course. And we do have to end the course at a certain point because Hugh is making preparations for a face-to-face workshop that we're doing in Pietermaritzburg, South Africa at the end of August. And so we really can't be bookending the two courses too closely in terms of need to get prep in place and everything else. So, so just keep that in mind. You have about a month at the most to get everything done, and we are here to help you. All right, enough lecturing, particularly because Emerson, Olavo, and William are here, so we don't have to lecture them about not showing up and not doing their work because they're doing it. Everyone else, please do your best to catch up with us, and hopefully you're watching this soon after the broadcast. All right, I am going to turn this over to Andrew. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, Andrew, take it away.
It's 2:06 here in Nairobi. Good afternoon, everybody. How are you?
Your volume, could you try to put the mic a little closer to your mouth?
I can hear you. Can I increase the volume?
Yeah, or get the microphone closer to your mouth or something.
Can you hear me now?
William, how's that?
Can you hear?
William's very distorted.
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, very
okay,
good.
We're good. Go ahead, please.
I can say that William, Emerson, and Olavo are people that have been very good at doing this assignment, so we've been interacting. Everybody else who needs to be here to hear this is not here. So anyway, the good thing is we are recording this, and hopefully they will log in and hear what we're going to say. Now, it's actually, I'm going to focus on the assignment, the current assignment, which is Module 5, Assignment 1, before Hugh comes in and does today's presentation. Now, the assignment, as the three of you and the others who are listening may have realized, is about reports. And we are actually in exercise 1 comparing Tanzania with Rwanda. And you know, in the exercise, Module 5, Assignment 1, you will actually see that on the second page, there is, that shows the large-scale project in Rwanda, and then Tanzania, which is the one that we're trying to compare with. Now, before you actually begin to make sense out of this, just looking at these 2 pages won't help until you create some kind of a matrix or a table, which we have done, and I think you can see it on the screen. Can you?
Yeah. Could you expand it a little bit, zoom it a bit, Andrew, because it's very small.
It's small. Let me try.
Yeah, just zoom it up about 10-20%.
Is that better?
Yeah, much better. Okay, just go to the top so we can see the top of the table. Perfect.
Good. So Hugh created this, and we had a similar challenge in a previous webinar, or rather previous course. So we agreed with Hugh that providing this kind of table will actually explain to people how to succeed in making comparison between the performance of one project and another. So as you can see, the first column there, we have Tanzania, and then we have Rwanda. Initially, these two columns were hidden. If you look at the original one that Hugh sent you, you were just seeing Tanzania and Rwanda. But of course, you're able to unhide it, which we want to do now as we discuss this, so we can get a clear comparison between Tanzania and Rwanda. And what I've had to do, or what you had to do, is to bring out these figures. Like, for example, attendance rate for Tanzania is 90.6%. So you get it out of the actual report and put it on your table. And the attendance rate for Rwanda is 73.3. And there, it's very clear. It's easy to see which is superior. Obviously, Tanzania has a better attendance rate than Rwanda by 17.3%. As you can see, it's easy. And then the dropout rate, Tanzania is at 5.2, while Rwanda is at 11.7. The difference here is 6.5, which makes Tanzanians dropout rate superior. And as I was discussing with, I can't remember who it was, there's an even better indicator to actually, when it comes to membership indicators, and that is the growth rate, membership growth rate. And we explained to you that the membership growth rate actually takes into consideration the dropout rate. But if groups are also increasing members, that also is taken into consideration. So for example, in the case of Tanzania, even though they have a dropout rate of 5.2, they have a membership growth rate of 2.2, which means they are gaining more members than they are losing. And if you look at Rwanda, on the other hand, Rwanda has a huge dropout rate, which is worse than Tanzania's, but then their membership growth rate is even worse because they are actually losing members. They're not gaining members when they're losing some. So Tanzania is better by 11.1%. There's a formula there that we've used to just show you how to make the comparison. Now I want to jump straight, before I come to the average group balance sheet, I want to jump straight to key ratios, because this is actually a better way of comparing two programs that are totally different. As the assignment itself says, Rwanda is a large scale project and Tanzania is a small scale project. So it's a bit unfair for you to compare it if you just look at the absolute numbers. The best way to compare a project like this is to look at the ratios, and the key ratios are actually on the report. And but we've brought them out. Second last of the, if you've got your assignment, key ratios are just above the operational efficiency. So we brought those up here as well. And somebody pointed out that initially there was no return on savings, which is correct. Well, there was return on savings for the other project, but it's easy to calculate because the difference between return on savings and return on assets is actually very minimal, in the sense that the denominators are there, the numerators are the same. That's the net profit, while the denominator is either the value of savings, life cycle, or total assets. So I have both here. I have return on savings at 18.8% for Tanzania and 16.8% for Rwanda. And still, Tanzania on key ratios on return on savings, Tanzania is doing better. It's more profitable than Rwanda by 2% and 3.2% as far as return on assets is concerned. Another thing that I'd like to look at before we go to the average group balance sheet is the operational efficiency. So the question here is which project is doing better? The first indicator we're looking at is percentage of groups formed by village agents. And so Tanzania has 34% of the groups being formed by village agents, while Rwanda has 5%. Now, the reason we're saying Tanzania is superior is because village agents are actually the strategy for sustainability for a program or savings group program. Because as you know very well, field officers are hired for only a period of time, maybe 3 years. And when the project is over, the strategy is to have the village agents ready to take over. And if the field officer spend time training the village agents, they, by the time he is leaving or by the time the project is wrapping up, village agents can actually take over. And so it's a good sign that Tanzania has groups, 34% of their groups being formed by village agents as opposed to Rwanda, because chances that Tanzania will be more sustainable are higher than Rwanda. The other operational efficiency indicator is cost per member. And I remember explaining this in one of the Skype discussions, that this is the ratio that comes about when the system divides the total budget of the project. That is the budget which you put it when you're setting up the project. You are inserting a number that represents the budget or the amount of money, the total amount of money that the program has used insofar as savings groups are concerned. Now, if you take that number and divide it by the total number of members, then you get the cost per member. So, for example, Tanzania is definitely more costly than Rwanda at 34.66%, which is about 3 times, almost 3 times the cost per member for Rwanda. So Rwanda may be cheaper, but as we've seen in terms of the quality of the project, Tanzania being superior when it comes to key ratios. Maybe the lowering the cost for Rwanda is compromising the quality of the project. Now, I alluded to this, that when you look at the absolute numbers, when it comes to the balance sheet, it's very unfair actually to compare the two projects because one is bigger than the other. But in this case, we are able also to look at some ratios. For example, the ratios that are being looked at here, I believe, have to do with the percentage. For example, the loan fund cash in box for Tanzania is 44% of the total asset. So the Tanzania project has quite a bit of money in their loan fund cash in box compared to Rwanda. It makes, it says, we're saying here that Tanzania is superior. I don't know why, actually, you see that Tanzania is superior. Maybe if you can explain a bit, because it means that instead of this money being borrowed, being with members, it's actually in the box as far as Tanzanian groups are concerned. So they have more money in the cash box compared to Rwanda. So Hugh, why did we say that Tanzania is superior in this case?
Okay. Well, first of all, that's a good question, Andrew. Okay, let me just make a quick summary here. When you look at the program scale and membership profile, Tanzania is clearly superior. They've got a good attendance rate, they've got a low dropout rate, and they're growing. So clearly, they've got much more member commitment than Rwanda. When you look at the key ratios, they're more profitable in terms of their percentage returns on what it is they're working with. But when you look at the group balance sheet, this is clearly a project where people are not really that interested in borrowing. And in a way, that's kind of value neutral. But when they are borrowing, they're making much more efficient use of they're getting higher returns. So somehow or another, they're managing their loan portfolio in a way which is giving them very good returns, even with a relatively small amount of money in loans outstanding, which could be something like it could have to do with interest rate, it could have to do with repayment rate. But by and large, I would say, although when we look at the balance sheet for Rwanda, you have a more diverse portfolio, okay, because you have a lot more property, you have more in the social fund. You have more money in the bank. It could be more mature, but in terms of efficiency, you really need to look at the key ratios because they're using the money they have more effectively. They're just making more money. So it would be a good question to ask. Normally, you'd be making this kind of comparison between two projects, maybe in the same country, which would simplify the analysis. But it's very, very clear that Tanzania is doing a lot better but that Rwanda has a more diverse balance sheet in terms of where its assets are distributed. But in terms of the money being used in the loan fund, I think the key point here is Tanzania is using it more efficiently to get those higher returns. And I think you made a very good point, Andrew, when you said, yes, they're more expensive, but is there a trade-off here? Are we seeing that a cheap project which is focusing on a low cost per member is having inferior results, and a project that is costing much more is getting better results? So I think there is a question there that would be worth studying. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you, Hugh. And a lot more time because we really need to go into our main presentation. But I need to say something about exercise 2. Now, the reason I don't have a metric to show you, although I have it, is because I'd like I wanted people to actually have a go at this. Because the advantage of exercise 2 is that the table has actually been provided for you, the comparison table. So you don't need to create it as such. You just need to comment on which one is better. Now, as you know, exercise 2 has to do with a benchmarking report or a benchmark report for a Rwanda project. Now, the first column, and I'm not here to show you, but I know you can tell because you may have the assignment with you, is referring or is presenting numbers for the project in Rwanda. And the second column says simply Rwanda, but that means it's the benchmark report or the situation for the national average, the average for the entire, all the groups in Rwanda. So we are comparing a specific project in Rwanda, for example, whose sample age is 40 weeks, with the Rwanda national average, all the savings groups in Rwanda, the average of that is about 37 weeks. So I can just very quickly say, for example, that the attendance rate on exercise 2 for the project is 79.1%, whereas the attendance rate for the national average is 88.3, which means the national average is superior. So this project that is being looked at, is being compared to the national average, is doing poorly, slightly poorly, I should say, by about 8 or 9 percentage points when it comes to attendance rate. So what I'd like you to do before we actually I have it, I'll actually send you the comparison. I'd like you to attempt to answer the question. And most of you who attempted were not comprehensive. They actually just made a statement saying, the project is superior, the project is inferior. But we wanted you to go step by step, go through all of the other matrix, attendance rate, membership growth rate, average annualized savings, right up down to cost per member, like we did in the past exercise. So I'm going to be on the lookout. I know some of you have already done that, so I'm going to mark your work. But as soon as I notice that you've got it, then I can make a comment and then attach the second matrix for exercise 2 that we do. Otherwise, please keep working hard, especially those who have not attended this webinar. Some of you have already finished your homework, your assignment, but most of you haven't. And yesterday was the deadline, so I don't know. You should still do it. I don't know how Bill is going to conclude in terms of marking you, but you should still do it because this is about learning. Even if it's past the deadline, you need to make an attempt. I will definitely look at your work and make comments. Otherwise, I'd like to now hand over to Hugh for the main presentation.
Okay. I'm not quite sure how this works. Let me just have a look. I think I'm just going to do a share screen. I can't. You have to stop sharing your screen.
Let me stop sharing. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Right. Okay. So let me share. Show windows. Here we are. Where are we? Okay. Webinar reports. I think this is the one I want. Okay. Let's go. Now, I hope everybody can see this, but I'm going to just quickly sort it out. Just a minute. Okay, and I have to do the usual, which is swap screens. Okay, here we are. Okay, good. So off we go. Now,
Looks good, Hugh.
can you see it?
Yep, looks good.
Yes, you can see.
Great. Okay, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Yes, yes.
Okay, good. Here we go. Now, last week we looked at project administrator reports, and we then said we looked at MIS administrator reports, but now we're looking at project administrator reports. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a recap on this because this is what we looked at last week. We had MIS administrator, and we said that the MIS administrator can include more than one project. Okay, it can be one project or it can be many projects, but it is in one country, and you have these 5 reports which we went through. This is aggregating projects, this is comparing projects, this is benchmarking usually to the results for the country as a whole. Then we have the trends report, then we have the project map. This is what we went through last week. Now, today, what we're going to do is we're going to shift gears and we're going to move down from the MIS administrator, because if we look at the MIS administrator, these are all upper level results. It tells us how well the project is doing. It enables us to compare projects. It enables us to say, yeah, in terms of the national averages, we're doing all right or we're doing badly. But it doesn't tell us what's actually happening on the ground. So what we need for that is we need to go down to the project administrator, and the project administrator is always going to be working with a single project. And there are basically 2 categories of reports: project management reports and operational reports. Now, I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to say project management. It's basically the same as MIS administrator, but it's for a single project. You have project performance, you have benchmark, you have trends, and you have project map. So it's the same as for the MIS administrator, but it just covers one project. But of course, because it's a single project, it doesn't have a project comparison, okay? And I call these the big bosses reports at the country level, because these are the reports which interest the country director, the project manager. It also would interest head office, wherever that may be. Okay, now then we have, and this is the key distinction between what goes on at the MIS level and at the project level, we have operational reports. Okay, now the project administrator is not just concerned about reporting to donors or reporting to project management. They're concerned about improving what they do. So in order to improve what they do, the focus shifts away from the project as a whole, and it begins to focus on trainers, okay? And we're because these are the people who are doing the work. So we have what we call a trainer comparison report, which enables us to look at how the different trainers are doing. We then have a group comparison report, which enables us to look at the individual groups within an individual trainer's portfolio. So trainer comparison looks at 5 or 6 trainers maybe. Group comparison just looks at the groups of an individual trainer. And then we have a group performance report where you are able to look at an individual, group. Now you notice here we have something else. We have trainer performance and we have trainer comparison. Wait a minute. Why are we having these 2 reports? Okay, I'll tell you why. Trainer comparison is something that is in the control of the project administrator at the project level. Okay, but the trainer performance report is a report which is configured by the MIS administrator, and it applies standard performance reports to all projects within an MIS. Okay, and that's kind of useful for an MIS administrator, because then they can make sure that they are requiring all projects to perform within certain parameters that they set up. We'll go through that, don't worry about it, but this one here, the training comparison, is in the control of the project administrator, This one here, the project administrator does nothing. It's set up by the MIS administrator, but the project administrator can look at the results based upon what are program-wide standards for the performance of trainers. We then have a data aging report, which is a great management tool because it means that we can see how old the data is and if any field officers are behind in the delivery of their data into the system. Okay, so any questions about this? Sorry, let me just go back there. Is there any, God, this thing just plays around with you all the time. Just a minute. Okay, display settings, swap. There we are. Okay, let's go back to it. Now, does anybody want to ask any questions about the difference between the reports for the MIS administrator and the project administrator? Maybe I should ask. Okay, William Mavuso, can you tell me about the difference between the MIS administrator's reports and the project administrator's reports? How are they different? Go ahead, William, but you're very loud.
You have a distortion with your microphone for some reason. Maybe try plugging it in and unplugging it and plugging it back in again, William. Let's try again.
Hello? I think we're going to have to give you a bio, William, because we can only hear all kinds of loud noises and no voice.
Maybe if you wouldn't mind using the chat, William, and you can type your answer. If you wouldn't mind. Because we can't hear your mic.
I'm not seeing the chat actually, Bill, because I'm actually on the PowerPoint. 1, 2. Okay, I think we're going to have to. Sadly, we're going to have to move on. And maybe I should ask Luis Olavo. Can you tell us what you think the differences are between MIS and project level reports? Luis, are you there?
So I don't know. I will talk very well because of the language. So I think that the MIS report it's a big level because you can see the reports of most projects. Then the project administrator.
Exactly. That's a very good answer.
The MIS can comparison the many different projects. I think so. The problem is the language. They can't explain so good.
Okay, that's a very good answer. Essentially, the MIS administrator can look at many projects. The project administrator only looks at one project. But the project administrator has their reports divided into 2 classes, which is upper level reports talking about project performance overall, and then it has a lower level where we're looking at what goes on at the field. Okay, so let me just move on now to the next screen, which is what does it look like? Okay, now just a minute, I need to get this thing out of the way. Okay, good. Right, okay, now when we look at this is the project performance report. This is the project administrator. Now notice here it says project administrator, signed in as project administrator. Okay. And then we're looking at reports are found under the project management reports tab here and the operational reports tab here. Okay. So basically what we're looking at here is the project management reports, which are upper level reports, and the operational reports, which are the lower level reports. Let me go back here. Let me just go back. So project management reports and operational reports. Okay, so let's go forward again. So we have project management reports and operational reports. Okay. Okay, now, right, now we're coming on to the project performance setup. Okay, all right, now, so here we are again. We've gone to the project management reports, and the project management report is exactly the same as the project performance report. Okay. At the MIS level, but it only covers one project, so no project selection is needed. Now, the project administrator can set the date of all reports. It can select by status, self-managed or supervised or both. They can select only data from groups at the end of a numbered cycle.
For some reason, I can't see the, oh, there it is. Yeah.
You can't see what, sorry?
We weren't seeing the screen, but I can see it now.
You can see it now.
Yes, nice.
Okay, good. So let me just go back here then, go through it again. We're in the project performance report and we can adjust the date. We can decide whether we want to look just at self-managed groups or groups that we are supervising. We can choose a report at the end of a particular cycle, or we can select a report where we're only selecting groups of a certain age. We could say all groups that are 6 months old, all groups that are 9 months old, all groups that are 12 months old. Now, when we've set all those parameters and we click on run, we get a report, okay? So here is what the report basically looks like, okay? So up here we have what we call program scale and membership profile. Now this column here is the total for all of the projects, for all of the groups in a project. This one is for the average group in a project, and this one is percentages within each category. Okay, so for example, we have 1,500 members, of which 325 are men, 1,175 are women, which means we have 78% women and 22% men. The attendance rate is 90%, the dropout rate is 5.2%, and the membership growth rate is 2.2. This is the project that we were looking at for Tanzania. Okay, now down here we have the financial situation of the group is defined by a balance sheet. We have let me go back. We have assets, we have liabilities, and we have equity.
Excuse me here.
Yep.
I don't know if I'm the only one, but what I can see is the PowerPoint slide. I'm not able to see the report you're talking about. Can everybody else see what?
Can I ask everybody else, what are you seeing, please?
Yep.
Yeah, I can see the PowerPoint slide. It's a PowerPoint slide, yeah.
Can you see? It's just a single page, right?
Right.
Let me just check. Is that different?
No.
Okay.
The one that you started with, but then when you began talking about report, then we couldn't see what you were referring to.
Okay, let me go back to here.
Yeah. Now we see.
Okay, now can you see here? Now can you see this report?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, now, all right, so there must have been some internet issue, okay? But basically this column here is totals for the whole program. This column here is for the average group, and this one is just percentages. And I've already talked about, you know, the profile of the members, okay? The members, the men, the women, the attendance rate, the dropout rate, and the membership growth rate. Then down here on this column, we have an aggregation of all the groups in the project. And on the right-hand side here, we have the average for a single group. Okay, so we'll see that we have 128 million in assets in Tanzania, but the average group has 1.6 million in assets. We have liabilities here, 700,000. The average group has 9 million. No, sorry, 9,000. Then we have equity, which is what the groups own, and it's 125 million. And the average group has 1.631 million. Okay. And then at the bottom here, we have a profit figure for in total for the program, and the average group making 248,000 in profit. Now we then look at I'm going down to so many of these data here are abstracted from up here. Okay, we show net profit and we show dividends paid, and therefore total financial benefits to member made up of net profit and dividends paid. You'll notice dividends is very small. And down here we have a very interesting figure, which is the average savings per member per year. Okay, so you can say in our program, if we average out what the average member is saving after 12 months, it's 102,050 Tanzania shillings. And the current average loan size is 82,000. Now down here you have return on savings, you have return on assets, and the difference between return on savings and return on assets. Can anybody tell me what I mean by return on savings? What do you think that ratio is? What are we comparing? Anybody? What do we mean by return? Do we mean I'm sending something back in the post? What is a return?
Return.
Return basically, anybody, just it's a single word and it begins with P.
It's profit.
Yes, correct. So it is your profit compared to your savings. So if you save 1,000, you're going to be making 188 profit. And then return on assets is where you're comparing your profit to your assets, and your assets also include things like the social fund. So the returns on all of your assets is going to be slightly lower. Then down here we have the percentage of your funds that are in use. It's 47%. And then 41% of your members are borrowing, and your cost per member is 78,000 Tanzania shillings. Okay, now that's roughly it's about $30. Okay, so this report here is your project performance report, and it's very useful as a snapshot of what's going on in your project. Okay, we discussed this somewhat last week when we were looking at the project performance report for the MIS, which included more than one project. And then we have, the next one is we have the benchmark report. Okay, we've moved from, the benchmark report is in exactly the same format as the benchmark report at the MIS level, but it only covers one project, so no project selection is needed. In this case, we have selected country. So we're going to compare our project to a country, okay? And the country we've selected is Tanzania, so that the project will be comparing itself to all other projects in Tanzania, okay? Now, I'm not going to show you the full report, but here is a summary of it. If you look, this is what you get. Okay, here you get, note that only the name of a single project is shown. Okay, VSL Associates Tanzania Training Project. Okay, the results for the project are shown in the first data column. So this is what is being achieved by one project, and column 3 is for Tanzania. So you'll notice the difference between Tanzania and the project shows that on balance, the average project in Tanzania is doing slightly better than our project. We have slightly lower attendance rate. We have a slightly lower membership growth rate. We have slightly less, quite a bit less savings. Our loan sizes are smaller, okay? But we do have more people borrowing. But we are actually borrowing less as a percentage of our total loan fund than the average for Tanzania, okay? And we have a slightly higher write-off rate. So although we're not too bad at doing, there are areas in which we could improve. So this enables us to say, okay, how are we going to improve? Right. The next report we've already did when we did the MIS report, and it is looking at trends, okay? So the trends report is exactly the same as the benchmark report at the MIS level, but only covers one project, so no project selection is needed. Group status is selected as both, which means supervised and self-managed groups. And starting and ending dates are shown here, which we went through last week. And here's the report. So I'm not going to go through this in detail, but the main point here is it's just one project. Likewise, when we look at project map, okay, now here we don't have to select a project, okay. So the project map is the same as the benchmark report, but only covers one project, so no project selection is needed. And it is automatically created when project map is clicked. There is no setup screen and no filters are applied. All groups are displayed. So here we have it. Now notice that unlike when you were at the MIS level and you had different projects, the dots were different colors, but here, because it's only one project, it's one color, okay? All right. Note that a list is created, and also note that a list is automatically generated that provides GPS coordinates for each group in decimal format. So here you see the GPS locations are printed out for you. So if you want to go to that particular location, you can do so. So if I look at Eloingoi Mat Makers, which is this one here, its GPS coordinate is 3.3281 south and 36.4590 east. Okay, right. So I'm not spending too much time on this because many of these reports are very similar to the MIS level reports, except, as I say, it applies to one project. Now let's shift to what's really important, and that is the project management reports. Okay? All right, now, these are the operational reports we're looking at. We've gone from looking at the upper level reports to the operational reports. Okay, typology. Operational reports look at field operations, and they are meant to help you make sure you're supervising your supervisors and your field officers and your village agents effectively. Okay, they're used mainly by project managers, okay, so that you can improve the performance of your staff.
You're still on the satellite map.
Sorry?
The slide that we're looking at is still the satellite map.
Oh, well, on mine it's not. Let me go back and see if we can sort that out. Right, satellite map. Now I'm going to the next screen. Do you now see text?
We can see this. Yes, we can see the.
Okay. Again, it's an internet issue. All right. So, so basically, operational reports look at field operations. You're improving the performance of field staff, and the people who use it are project managers. Okay. Now, it enables you to look at things in a descending hierarchy. Okay. Trainer performance. This is a report that is automatically generated in all projects.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I found my money here.
Hello? Okay. Trainer performance report. This is automatically generated. This is the one I was talking about, where you're looking at a report that is set up at the MIS level, and it covers all projects. Then we have a trainer comparison report, and this one applies only to a single project and is set up by the project administrator. Then we have the group comparison report that looks at the portfolio of each trainer, which I've already mentioned. Then we have the group performance report, which just looks at a single group. And then we have the data aging report, which I've already been through these, but now you see they have a certain hierarchy, okay? Here we're looking at all the trainers together. Here we're looking at the groups of a single trainer. Here we're looking at a single group. And here we're looking at the age of your data. So let's go through them one by one. Okay, now, this is where what we're doing is we are setting up the trainer performance report. Now here, notice here that what I've done is I've gone back to being the MIS administrator, because when I set this up, everything I do here is going to apply to all projects. Okay, so the MIS administrator logs on and then clicks first on MIS configuration tab, okay? And then on the trainer performance configuration, okay? So you come to the MIS configuration, you go along to the end and you have trainer performance configuration, okay? All right, when this is done, a subtable appears to enable setup, which is this one here. And it has 5 default metrics selected: number of groups, attendance rates, average annualized savings, or % of members with loans outstanding and return on savings. But you can change those. You see they're here, they've been pre-selected, but you can go down the list of metrics and select your own, you can select your own metrics, okay? So you could choose, for example, number of members or % of female members, but we normally recommend for this you don't have more than 3 or 4 or 5, maybe 5 is a good maximum for this report. You don't want to have too many metrics. Now you'll notice that what we have here is we have, this is what it looks like. Now here it's filled out. If I go back here, you notice it's blank, okay? And here what I've done is I've said, okay, my project, I've said number of groups, and I'm going to set the minimum acceptable number of 10, and I don't want my people to be creating more than 20 groups at a time, all right? And then I'm saying, so far as attendance rate is concerned, the minimum acceptable level is 80%. The maximum, of course, can't be more than 100%. Then I said the minimum annualized savings per member is going to be 75,000, and the maximum is 300,000. I mean, it could go beyond that, but I don't want to give any bigger reward for going beyond 300,000. % of members with loans outstanding, the minimum is 0, the maximum is 100%.
You're already ahead of us. We can't see the numbers.
You can't see the numbers. Okay, here we go again. Tell me if you can see it now. Can you see the table with numbers filled in?
Not yet.
Oh. Now let me go back. That's
Yeah.
a nuisance.
That's it.
Right, now you've got that, but what we need to do is we need to go to the next. Can you see this now?
Yes.
Okay.
We can see the numbers now.
You can see the table. So you see you have a minimum. So let's say your program says, as a field officer, you should have a portfolio of at least 10 groups, but I don't want you to be rewarded for having more than 20 groups because maybe there would be an issue with regard to quality. So I'm going to put a ceiling of 20. If you've got 20 groups, you get full marks, but if you get 25 groups, you still get full marks, but you don't get more than that. Then attendance rate is there, average savings per member is there, minimum and maximum, percent of members with loans outstanding is 0 and 100, and return on savings 10 and 30. And then because we're saying we want you to have at least 10% return on savings to be some kind of incentive for the groups, but we don't think that going beyond 30 is important. If you do, that's nice, but you're not going to get any reward for it. So in other words, this prevents the field officers from pushing people to borrow too much money. So we've set up upper and lower limits, and then we have given each one a weighting. We've said, well, for this one, we think we're going to give 30% of the total marks, 30% for attendance rate, number of groups and attendance rate. We're going to give 20% for savings, and we're going to give 10% for percent of members with loans outstanding and 10% for return on savings. Now, let me explain how this works. I've got 10 groups here as the minimum, and I've got 20 as the maximum. Okay, now let's suppose that I have 15. That means I am halfway between 10 and 20. Therefore, the score I'm going to get is 50%. If I've got 20, I get 100%. If I've got 10, I get 0. Okay, but if I got 15, I'm halfway between. So that's 50%. Now, I then multiply that by the weighting, which is 30%. So 15% times 30% is 4.5. Okay, so this is basically saying if you've got 15 here, okay, you've got 50% times 30, is 15%. Now, if I've got the maximum of 20, I get 100%, and I multiply it by 30, and therefore I get a score of 30%. So the first thing is where are you positioned between the minimum and the maximum? Okay, and then multiply that by the weighting, and then that will give you a score. So here, let's go through it. The MIS administrator fills in the minimum value with what the staff agree is the lowest acceptable level of performance. Okay?
Quick question.
Yes.
Do I get 0% if I have 10 groups or less than 10 groups?
It's less than 10 groups. Sorry about that. Yeah. Okay. Right. Now, so here you see, okay, this is the minimum value and the maximum value. So minimum and maximum values. Then I give a weighting, okay? And then, so thus the number of groups has a 30% in the overall score. Return on savings has a 10%, showing that the return on savings is considered to be less important. Note the total of all weightings must be 100%, 30, 60, 80, 90, 100. Okay. Once this is done, the MIS administrator saves all the settings and quits. In other words, they log out. These scoring criteria will then apply to all projects in this MIS. Okay. And reports based upon these settings will be automatically generated for each project. Okay, now here we go. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, so the project administrator logs on. Now I'm back as project administrator. The project administrator then clicks on operational reports, then clicks on trainer performance. Then they click on compare. And we're going to compare field officers. You could select supervisors. But normally it's field officers you're looking at, because field officers are the ones who are directly responsible for field operations. Can you all see the screen? Is it okay, Andrew?
Yes, you can see. Now.
Okay,
Yep, it's fine.
right. And then you get a report. Now you get two reports. The first one is the results. So this shows, for example, that Julia Majara has 22 groups and Rispa Amolo has 5. Okay. Then we have attendance rates. Okay, and then we have, so these are the actual scores, the actual results from the these are the actual results from the hold on, okay, for each trainer's portfolio of groups. Okay, the lower report shows the scores by metric and a weighted score. Now here we're getting the scores. So you see Majuli here, she's got 100%. Why? Because she's got 22 groups. In other words, she achieved the 20, but then poor old Rispa down here, she's got 0 because she got below the minimum, which was 10. Esther got below the minimum, which was 10, and Pion got below the minimum, which is 10. So they all got 0. Okay, but Peter, because he got 14, he was 40% of the way towards this particular objective. In other words, between 10 and 20 was, he got 40% of the way, so he got a 40% score. And then, so these are the actual scores that they got, where they achieved what they actually achieved. But here is the final score when you include the weightings. So you can see here that Julia's got 57%. Julia's got 55%, Peter's got 46, and so on, right down to poor old Rispa, who's stuck with 14.9%. Okay, so this is the trainer scoring. These are the scores. Okay, now I'm just going to go. So this is what you actually see when you print it out. Okay. If this is the printed appearance, so you can see this is very powerful because you don't have to use judgment. You're basically saying, on the basis of the criteria we agreed, this is how these various trainers have performed and this is how well they're doing. So when I look at it, for example, we know that Rispa is the worst, okay, quite definitely. But which one of Rispa's results give us the most cause for concern? Can anybody tell me? Look at Rispa's results and tell me which thing really makes you pay attention. Anybody?
Look at the top reports, guys, and see which one
Okay.
of the numbers on Rispa.
I think
Rispa, which number is of concern?
In rectangles of saving, he have a negative percent.
Right. Her average group is losing money. So there's obviously cause for concern. Okay, now this, I really like this report because if you've got 3 or 4 projects in your MIS, each one is being judged by the same standard. But the problem here could be that you have some projects which are working in a very high density area with a lot of economic activity, and other projects are working in areas where there is less economic activity. So it would be unfair to make the same comparisons between those 2 areas, in which case you would not use this report. Okay, but let's just look at it. Okay, so it is strongly recommended that the project administrators use the trainer performance report to make a simple score-based comparison of trainer performance against pre-agreed benchmarks. It needs no input for the project administrator and applies consistent standards to all projects. Okay, but there are cases, however, where there are big differences in economic and climatic conditions. In such a case, performance standards need to be tailored to the special conditions of each project. So to do this, the project administrator uses the trainer comparison report. Now, here we have the trainer comparison report. Okay. So the project administrator selects operational reports and then trainer comparison. Okay. Hold on a second. Yeah. Right. Okay. The administrator, hold on just a second. The administrator then selects whom to compare. Okay. In this case, field officers. And then the supervisors, in this case, all, because you're saying you want to compare all field officers, which means you must select also all supervisors. Otherwise, you will only have the field officers of one supervisor. And then you select your metrics, which automatically display on the table. So once I've done this, I've selected my metrics, okay? Here I've got my results, but these ones are tailored to the individual project, okay? All right, so when the results are displayed, the user can select a column and sort the table either high to low or low to high by clicking on the heading, in this case, number of groups. The administrator can select a different report date, okay? Can select different group age and decide whether or not it is supervised. So in other words, what we're doing here is we're producing a report which is designed where you're not setting upper and lower limits. You're not saying what is the top limit, what is the bottom limit. You're simply saying what are the results based upon my selection. Right. Now, trainer comparison results. Okay. Okay. Okay, when the results are displayed, you can select a column and sort the table. I think I've done this already. Yeah, okay, sorry, I'm repeating myself. Okay, let's carry on. Note that RISPER has a negative return on savings. Okay. For her groups, and this is an average and indicator, so at least one group is losing money. Okay, right. Next, group comparison report. Okay, so in other words, what we've done now is we've looked at trainers and we've said either an automatic report created based upon what the MIS administrator set up, or a report which is custom built and created by the project administrator. Okay, now we've then let's say I'm actually supervising field staff and I want to select a trainer. Okay, so here it looks at the groups of a single trainer. Okay, in this case, Rispa Amolo, who is a field officer. Okay, and it also includes her village agents. Okay, we're including the village agents. So the project administrator selects the 5 metrics and clicks on Run. Okay, then we get the report. Now, this is just telling what happens with RISPER. So you see here, here's her 5 groups. Okay, all right. From this result, it is clear that when return on savings is sorted, that RISPER has 2 groups that are losing money. One of them quite seriously at 16%. So we have one group losing money, we have another group losing money. Okay? All right. Yeah, okay. It is obvious that none of RISPER's groups are very profitable. Look, they're very low percentages, okay? so the project administrator decides, okay, fair enough. So first of all, she's got low percentages across all groups. They're 6.8, 6.8, 2.1. But two groups that are losing money. So those groups need to be looked at quite closely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift now, and I'm going to take a look at that group. So here I'm looking. I've gone to the group performance report. Notice group performance. I've gone from group comparison to group performance. Okay, but here I've selected the name of the trainer. I have selected the name of the group. Okay, and the reason we select the name of the trainer rather than just going straight to the name of the group is because if you put the name of the trainer in, you will only get her groups and not everybody else's. Okay? All right, now when you do that, what do you get? This is quite interesting. Okay. Now, this is the report you're going to get when you're looking at an individual group. So when I look at this report here, the report compares the group to the average for the project. So this is group, and this is the project average. This is who's doing, this is the person monitoring and who trained the group. Okay. Now, so we are comparing the group to the average for the project. And then it will be seen that we have losses of 120,000 shillings, 120,550. Now, how are they caused? I'm looking at this. Is there any way I can see why this group is losing 120,000 shillings? Is there any one of you who can suggest why this group may be making a loss, looking at the figures in the group column? Why is a group losing 120,000 shillings?
Okay, we're not seeing the group report yet.
Oh, okay, then I have to go back. It's the same old problem. Let me do it again. Now, can you see the report now? Andrew?
Yes.
Can you see it? You can see it. Andrew, I can't hear you. Can you confirm? Okay, so here we've got the report. Now, I'm going to show we're comparing the group with the project average. Can you all see that? Andrew, can you confirm that you can see it? I don't hear you.
Yes.
Okay, you can.
The report that's comparing
Right.
results.
Can somebody, can they mute their mic? I think it might be Olavo or William. Okay.
Yeah, I can see the report.
Good. Right. So somebody, can Luis mute your mic? Can you mute your mic, please? That's better. Okay. Maybe it's you, Andrew. I'm not sure. Okay. Okay. So here we've got the what's happening with this group and what is happening with the project average. Now, when I look at this, we're making a loss of 120,000. Can somebody tell me why they think we're making a loss of 120,000 when we look at this column of figures here? What has the group done which caused that loss? Notice the return on savings is minus 16%. Why are they losing so much money?
Maybe I can ask the team, what's the number above return on savings represent?
Yes, William? It's very frustrating for you, William. I'm afraid we can't hear you. It's just a strange sounds. Let me.
You can type into the chat, William, if you see it on the right there.
I can't see the chat, Bill, so you'll have to tell me if he.
Yeah,
what he typed.
he's not typing anything now. So, sorry,
Okay.
William. Go ahead, Hugh.
All right. Well, the reason is this group is paying itself dividends of 220,000 shillings. In other words, they've given money to the members as a profit share, but they've given them too much money so that they've made a loss. If they haven't given 200,
William has already typed something. Let me read it out to you.
what does he say?
I think the group paid the dividend.
Yes. Well done, William.
Thank you, William.
Great. Yes, they paid themselves more money than they made in profit, so they lost. Okay. So if they hadn't given the dividend, they would have had 100,000. Okay. So here is the reason for it, and then here, this demonstrates how the report can be used to pinpoint weaknesses for a supervisor to discuss with the trainer. So in other words, we first of all looked at our trainers. We looked at our trainers and we said who is good and who is less good. Then we looked at an individual trainer and we looked at the groups of that individual trainer and we said, well, whoa, look at that. There's clearly a problem with a couple of groups here. So then we went in and we looked at the individual group and we came up with the reason why there is a loss. You may not, if you look at this, you may not find a reason for a loss, but sometimes you do. And it's a very useful summary because you can look at this and you can see, for example, that they're not saving as much money. You can see that they have, let's see, they're using a lot of money. They've got a 52% of members with loans outstanding. Their loans outstanding is slightly less than the project average. Their savings is only just about 50% of the project average, but they're not doing too badly, or they would be doing fine if they hadn't paid themselves a dividend. Right, 2 more slides to go. Now, the next report is data aging, okay? Now, once again, I've logged on as the project administrator, and this and I've clicked on data aging, okay, here. When I do that, this allows the user to see the number of groups that have not had data collected in less than the days set on the data age threshold setting. So I'm going up here and I said, how many groups have not had data collected in the last 150 days? And here I have Majuli hasn't collected data on 4 groups in 150 days, Julia on 1 group, Pion in 3 groups, and Peter Kimani in 1. Okay, so that's to see the specific group. The project administrator clicks on the name of the trainer. So we're clicking on Majuli here, and this is the report I'm going to get. It shows Majuli, and it says 4 groups. Okay? Now, the lower table is added when the selected trainer, Majuli Kimarai, is highlighted. And this shows the 4 groups for which she has not collected data in the last 150 days. But note that the normal limit is 90 days, so 150 days is very generous. But you can see these are the 4 groups, and this was the last time data was collected. Okay? Yes. Right. Now, any questions? There's a lot of questions, I'm sure. Okay.
We are not seeing the. So there they come. Now we can see Majuli Kimarai's groups at the bottom.
Oh, you can see now.
Now you can see it. Yes.
Okay, it's just taking a long time to come.
Right.
So this is Majuli Kimarai. We've clicked on her 4 groups. These are the 4 groups, and this is when the data was last collected. So this is a very useful management tool for the MIS administrator or the project administrator, because they can ensure it would help them easily to find out which trainers are collecting data, keeping things up to date, which are not, and which groups they need to prioritize in order to bring the portfolio up to date. Now, that's the end of the PowerPoint presentation, and I just want to quickly go back to the first slide. Okay, let's put it up again. And we get the same old thing. Just a minute. No, okay, here we go. So last week we did the MIS level reports. Today we've done project reports. We have the project level reports, which are very similar to the MIS reports, but only covering one project, which is project performance, benchmark, trends, and project map. But at the project administrator level, this is for a single project as opposed to the MIS administrator where you've got one or more projects. And then operational reports enabling you to supervise field staff are these reports here. Trainer comparison, okay, which is set up by the project administrator. Trainer performance, which is set up by the MIS administrator. Group comparison, group performance, and data aging. Okay, so those are the basic reports. Okay. So there's a lot to cover here, and we're running a bit on time. So I'm a bit concerned because what I was proposing to do was to take a look at the MIS itself, the particular MIS itself. Let's see if we can quickly go through it. Just a minute. Where are we? Just a minute. I don't see it. Okay, here we go. Let me just set it up. Won't take a second. Okay, now, can you see my screen? Can you see the MIS?
No.
You can, good. Right.
No, we cannot.
No, we can see.
Cannot see it yet.
Okay, let's see what we can do about that.
You didn't share a screen.
I need to share screen, yes. Just a minute. Well, it says share screen, but I have to find it now.
The bottom of the screen.
Right, that's what I was thinking, but it's not the right one. Just a minute.
A green tab.
It's taking a little time to show up.
Just keep on hovering your cursor at the bottom of the screen, Hugh.
Yeah, okay, right. Okay, no, it's not showing. Oh, wait a minute, got it. Okay, here we are. Can you see it?
Yeah, we see the sign-in screen.
Okay, good. So here I'm going to sign in, okay, at VSL Associates Tanzania. The username is, I'm going to log on as the project administrator, admin1, and now I'm going to type in the password 121212, and I sign in. Here I am. Okay. Now, again, we have the project management reports here. We have the operational reports here. Project management reports. I can run my report, which is my single project performance report. I run it. I have my results. Let me move this out of the way. Okay. I have my benchmark report. I run it. And this takes a little while because it it wants to compare with all the projects. Oh, I'm comparing it to the world. We can't do that. Let's do country. And we go to Tanzania and I run it. Okay, let's just run it. There we are. Here's my report comparing it to Tanzania. Okay. I have my trends report here. And I've got number of groups, I've got attendance rate. It's dropped from 91% down to 90.4%. It looks terrible, but in fact, it's a very small change. Number of members, average number of members per group, etc., etc. I have my project map. Okay, and here it is. And I'm going to change it to a satellite image. There you are, and those of you who know and love Arusha can see where we are. Okay, we're all around Ngorongoro and the Serengeti National Park. Okay, so those are my project management reports. Now I go to my operational reports, okay, and I have my trainer performance report, and I click on it, and I want to compare my field officers, and I run the report. There we have it. This is the one that is automatically created because I have set it up as the MIS administrator. Okay. I have my trainer comparison report, which is not set up. Now I'm working as the project administrator, and I say, okay, number of groups, attendance rate, I don't know, let's say return on savings, let's say fund utilization rate, click on that. Open up this column a bit. I'm going to be comparing my field officers of, I've got 2 supervisors, so I select all, okay, and I run the report. Okay, keep on, wait a second. There we are. I can hide that column there, and I have my report here, okay. Oh, go on. There we are. Okay. So now I can see I've now created this, but at the project level. So I have control over this as the project administrator. Now I put in % of female members. Now I put in average annualized savings per member. So I can create this at the project level, but the trainer performance report is automatically generated because it's set up at the MIS level. Okay, good. Now let's go to group comparison. And I'm going to say monitored by Julia Majara. Okay. And I'm going to, okay, I'm going to run the report. Oh, wait a minute. It would be helpful if, there we are. These are Julia Majara's groups. Let's try, who was our terrible lady? Rispa Amolo. Okay, run it. Okay, now I've got a report for Rispa Amolo, attendance rates, and I've got return on savings. Where are we? Nearly finished. Here we are, return on savings. And then there you are, you see. I've got these 2 bad groups. Now, but the point is, I've set this up as the project administrator, okay? And this report will be different to the one which is created I'm sorry, as you were. I'm comparing the groups of this particular trainer, and I notice I've got these 2 groups, and we've already looked at Consolata. Let's go take a look at Tuna Pendakazi. Okay, so I go to group performance. Okay, and it is 0007, Tuna Pendakazi, and this one happens to be belonging to Rispa Amolo. Okay, now if I do that, you see I've only got Rispa's groups. Tuna Pendakazi, run the report. Here we are. And now we see, do we have the same problem? Yes, we do. Dividends paid, 85,000. And the loss, there was a 31,000 loss, so they've paid themselves too much in dividends.
Hugh?
Okay. Yep.
We're at an hour and a half. Just
I realize
how
so
much
we need
longer will you need for the webinar? Just
probably 10 minutes because we need to go through the exercises. Okay.
okay.
All right. I'm not going to spend much more time on this data aging report here. I'm going to set these days here to 150. And I'm going to say run my report. Okay. Okay, and I'm going to look at Esther Nganger. She's got a lot of groups which are a long time since she collected data from them. Okay, so we have that. Any of these reports can be printed. So there's a printed report. Okay. So that's basically it. Now, what I want you to do, what I want us to do now is to look at what we're going to be doing by way of discussions. And where are we now? Just a minute. Hold on a sec. Discussions. Now I'm a bit stuck. Wait a minute. We are. Okay. Now, rubric for discussion 2. Okay. Now, tell me if you can see this report. No?
Not yet.
No,
Just a minute. I need to show all reports.
You're not sharing your screen now, too.
No, that's right. I'm looking at it right now. Just a moment. Where are we? Rubric for discussion. I think I got it. No, that's rubric for discussion 1. It always takes time for it to show up, unfortunately. Just a minute. Where are we? Rubric for discussion. Okay. I've got it showing here. Now let me just do share screen. We have to decide which one it is. I think this is, that's rubric for discussion 1. And we should have, no. Got it. Okay, here we are. Now tell me if you can see the screen.
It's coming on. Yes, we can.
Okay. Now this is quite simple. Okay. We basically want to know what is the difference between the trainer comparison report and the trainer performance report. You may need to refer to the PowerPoint to be clear about that. By this we mean, why might the project administrator, could the project administrator prefer to use the trainer comparison report instead of the trainer performance report? What would be the reason the project administrator would not accept the use of the trainer performance report? What conditions would make him feel that it was not an appropriate thing to do? Now then we talk about discussing the sequencing of reports as would be used by supervisors and how these are used, first of all, to compare trainer performance, then to compare groups of a given trainer, and then to look at in depth at an individual group. In other words, why do we go from comparing trainers, then groups of a trainer, and then look at an individual group? What's the reason for going in that direction? Why don't we just go and look at groups straight away? Or why don't we look at just an individual trainer straight away? Why are we going from comparing trainers to looking at the groups of a trainer and then looking at an individual group? So that's the discussion for Module 5. You'll find that on Canvas, which is pretty straightforward, okay? Now, the last thing we want to look at is the assignment, okay? Now, again, I'm going to have to dig it out. Let's have a look. 4A, 4B, 5A, 4B. Okay, I'm going to have to dig it out. I can't find it straight away. Just a minute. Just here we are, assignment. MIS level management report. Okay, so got it. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, let me go back in to where you guys are. Whoops, pardon me. Module 5, assignment 2. Okay, here we go. Okay, now I'm going to share screen with you. Sit here, hopefully. Where is it? Why can't I see it? Okay.
The bottom.
I'm a bit stuck here, actually. Just a minute. Okay. Oh, here we are. Okay. Screen two. Okay. Here we are. M5 assignment 2. Okay. Now, I want you to look at the assignment 2. The module 5 assignment 2. Creating and analyzing operational reports. Now. First of all, take your time over this and really play around with it. What I'm giving you is I'm giving you access to the MIS that I've just shown you, the one for Tanzania. Okay. So the first thing you would do is you would look at these credentials, VSL Associates Tanzania. You would have the username and the password. Okay. And that will take you into the system, okay? Right? Now, go to this project as project administrator here. Click on the reports tab, operational reports tab here, and you'll see the following screen. So this is what you'll see. So exercise 1, create and analyze a trainer comparison report. Trainer comparison report, okay? Selecting the metrics I've listed here. Number of groups, attendance rate, average annualized savings, percent of members with loans outstanding, return on savings. Click Run and look at the report that will be created and select the best field officer and the worst and write a summary of why one person is the best and why one person is the worst. These metrics that we've chosen here, we've already seen this report. We've already got a pretty clear idea of who's the worst. Go and find out who's the best. Now, then we want you to create and analyze a group comparison report. And go to the group comparison report, which is the next one here. Okay. In the monitored box, select from the drop-down list the name of the field officer you have identified as the weakest. So here you would go to the group comparison report. You would select the weakest field officer that you've done. And then in the metric picker box, select attendance rate, average annualized savings, percent of members with loans outstanding, and return on savings. Identify the weakest group and say, why have you selected this group as being the weakest? Okay. Then go to the group performance report, select the weakest group, and are you able to identify from this report what reason the group may have for its bad performance? Okay. Now, then you can go, then we have a verification exercise where you go to the trainer performance report, okay? And does this report mainly agree with your decision? Is there a significant variance? If there is a significant variance, review your decisions for exercise 1 and justify any difference in the ranking of field officers. In other words, you're going to go here and you're going to rank your field officers based upon these criteria. You're going to create a group comparison report to identify the weakest group. Then you're going to go to the group performance report to say why it is the weakest. And then you're going to go back to the trainer performance report to see if what you selected in the trainer comparison report is similar? Is the result verifying your judgment, or is there a big difference? Now, this is a big exercise, and it's probably the most difficult one you're going to be doing over the entire course, okay? You must get in touch with us if you have any difficulties or problems with it, okay? Because this one is giving you the highest scores of any of the exercises that we're going to be doing, okay? So, sorry for it taking so long, but it's a lot to get through. And once you've done this, you've broken the back of the whole system, okay? Next week, we'll be going through the results of this, and we will be looking at how you create user-defined fields. Okay, I'm done. Sorry it took so long.
All right, Hugh, and thank you for William, Joy, and who is Alavo for sticking with us. Hopefully you've been able to keep up with all this. And for everyone else who'll be listening on the recording, as Hugh said, it's really important that you contact us if you're having any trouble completing the assignment. We're here to help you. Also notice a message I'm sending out to everybody later on today once the recording is available about the final days of the course, the final weeks, I should say. We are trying to wrap up by the end of this month. If you were in a situation that you've fallen behind and you need extra time to catch up and you contact us and make arrangements, then we're happy to accommodate you. If you don't contact us and you're far behind and we have to end the course and you haven't achieved the 65% minimum grade, then we unfortunately will have to consider you out of compliance with what MasterCard expected, and we really have to work between MasterCard and your employer to figure out how we can rectify the situation, because we actually have never had a problem with students dropping out or not doing the work before, so it's kind of a new situation for us. But several of you are weeks behind on the work and aren't contacting us to let us know what's going on. So please do your best to keep up, ask us for help, and we'll do what we can. And for those of you that have been keeping up, we know it's a lot. We appreciate your efforts, and I know that in the end, this will benefit your organizations and really help you to create a better management information structure for the important savings work you're doing. So thanks, everybody, and this recording will go up shortly, and everyone have a great day.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, everybody. All the best. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Yes, good.